Okay, hello, I'm Joshua and I'm an INTP, and first and foremost I would like to say thank you for viewing this video and subsequently visiting my channel. This will be the fourth time for me trying to give a run at this, and the topic of this video will be on ENFPs. And so without further ado, this will be an exposition and an analysis of the personality type ENFPs as I understand them in my typological system. So firstly, I'd like to say that I view perception as a subjective property. So perception is subjective, but it can be divided dichotomously between qualitatively based perception and objective based perception. They're both subjective in nature. It's just that the qualitative individuals look for emotive items and existential items and look to make patterns of meaning out of emotive, motivational, and humanistic qualities of salience within their environment and in a given on a given landscape. And so it's to say simply that ENFPs see meaning before they see objects. They break the world up into its itemization of personal factors that are related towards the self. They care to find things that affirm their existence and to avoid things that disavow or negate their existence and the things that they value. They're humanistic and fundamentally romantic in nature. However, what the ENFP is an existential pioneer. Because their dominant function is extroverted intuition, they typically sit on the they typically roam about and traverse out into the frontier of what it means to be human. They're always trying to look to revivify and extend that expression as much as they can as their metaphysical anthropomorphic artisans. They're dancers, actors, poets, sculptors, and painters that are trying to extend the image of how we ought to act given the nature of reality. So the ENFP is asking, how should I be in order to get the most good out of what is? Because they tend to be somewhat objectively based, even though they're qualitative individuals. They can take and look out into the world and collect the sensory perceptions and associate all those things with the meaningful information that they receive from acting on the world due to their extroverted intuition. ENFPs are part of the NF collective, and really what they seem to be in the business of is the creation of the ideal self. They're pioneering out on the frontier of what it means to be human because they're sort of possibly consciously, but mostly unconsciously, pining for and striving after the best way to be to receive the maximum amount of meaning from reality. They're scavengers and hunters for this property of existential salience. The thing about meaning is it's the substance of psychic quality that helps people overcome the tragedy of existence, which is something that ENFPs and most NFs are all too familiar with. They have the ability to be out in the world and experience a hue of emotional impressions and sensory ones that create this very strong and compelling narrative to them about a battle between affirmation and negation, about things that are joyfully presenting and horrifying and terrific in their presentation. They understand these deep anthropomorphic structures that live in us and experience them rather readily. It's why they can be shy, because they're so boisterously, wonderfully curious about the world, but they feel it all too strongly and know all too well the feeling of shock, terror, disappointment, disillusionment, and fear, just in a very holistic way, as they walk around the environment looking to continually run forward, but are always somewhat being pulled back by just the tumultuous aspects that can exist on the frontier that they're pioneering. But you can imagine them as individuals with smiles, with little muskets and wagons trailing them, just pioneering and sojourning down a frontier. They want to be out there, and they want to be always on the edge, looking into the unknown, waiting in the unknown, because they know something all too well about chaos. That yes, chaos can be frightening, and it can be somewhat terrifying, but at the same time, it can be this place where possibility emerges and new hope can be found. Newness and novelty can be an aspect of transformation that one can drink in to be a guiding light and force for them to overcome, to find joy, to find peace, to find solace, to find love. What all can exist out in the unformed is infinite, and what's out in the unformed has the potential to form into something that's rather pleasant, but it also has the potential to become a dragon, and that's why they're equipped with this mode of imposition and willing to confront the world, because they're the type that knows all too well that the world can be and is dangerous, and they have their collected history. The ENFP is always walking, searching for meaning and forwardly driven, but with a collected historic past. It's an interesting impressionistic narrative between feeling and sensory perception. Because of their introverted sensing, they're consistently aware of the motions, emotives, and qualities that exist in them, but know all too well the motivation of others. They know all too well from their history with other people the nefarious and the malevolent qualities that can exist in people, the harmful and threatening aspects of nature in its totality. Yet they still, because they're extroverted in a sense, and that's rather much an index for positive emotion, joyfully trying to just step forward, because they want to dance, they want to sing carols and leap about gaily through the street, going on adventure from adventure to adventure, taking and collecting in sight, taking and collecting in aesthetic, taking and collecting in food, just collecting all the things that can impress themselves so deeply upon them, so that they can find the best way to create themselves, so that they can find the best way to build themselves up, to be able to withstand tragedy. And it's why they like characters. They like characters because, well, you can think about it like this. So they like characters for the same reason that INFPs like poetry and philosophy and just being around in nature. Because when an INFP encounters these sort of rather amorphous and numinous aspects, they can experience archetypes, and the archetypes can convey ideals to them. So they get into this business of trying to create ideals, and it's from these ideals that their morals, their laws, their maxims, and their mandates emerge from, and those are the things that they hold close to them and sometimes give out to the world. Well, the ENFP is fairly linked up and plugged into that same phenomenon in a similar vein. However, because the ENFP wants to act and to do things, they want to legitimately act in the world, and continue to step forward and lead the vanguard in a way of expressing humanism or expressing humanistic qualities. They really want to do that. They want to be a person. They want to be a real girl. They want to be a real boy. They want to be and actualize something that can stand behind something, that can stand for something, and that can't be swayed, it can't be deterred, cannot be intimidated, cannot be compromised. They want to be a shining kind of individual that can act in the world. So they're plugged up to this concept of idealization. However, you can think about it like this analogy. INFPs are like God the Father. ENFPs are like Christ or God the Son. And so if INFPs are God the Father and he embodies the highest ideals and goods, or he's the creator and the generator of those things as he is everything else, then they're the ideal, the living ideal or embodiment of that thing acting in the world. So they take and like characters, because what characters communicate to them are a new vehicle of perception and salience, of understanding a new way to act in such a way that's in accordance with their highest values. They see people as scripts of expression of value sentiments, of deep properties that hearken to the annals and halls of aeons and fraternity of human salience. They recognize archetypes manifested in individuals. Even if they don't consciously realize it, they find themselves drawn to certain people, and they can't understand in some respects, but they channel these things, and the people are channeling them. And so what the ENFP does is go around and collect characters. I like this person, I like what they say, I like that person, and they start getting this kind of little scrapbook and start making themselves up. Because what they're trying to do, in a lot of ways, is make themselves an archetype, or make themselves something that's pure enough, not pure in like the way, but in more of a metaphor, pure enough or good enough to approach the house of holies. They want to remove their sandals and then stand before the burning bush, because that gives them so much meaning. It will be something that furnishes them to be able to withstand the tragedy of existence. And they're quick to do these things. They're quick to meet interesting people. They're quick to go to places where they can find a character here or a character there, a little expression or saying or action here that really speaks to them about some grander scheme or idea that they can incorporate into themselves and then try to act and live it out, because they are actors. They're actors who are existential pioneers. They're on the edge of what it means to practice ethics, and they are the ethical agent in some sense, instantiated in its fullest expression, to where they're a lot like Christ in the sense that they'll say, well, you have heard it was said, but verily, verily I say unto you, because they like facts and things, and they like to tell you, they like to express their ideas and their thoughts. Really, this is what's going on, so you've heard this, but this is really what's going on. But what they do better is just to act and to live it out, because though they can't tell you everything they stand for, though they can't articulate every bit of value that exists in them, that they know to be true and to be beautiful, to be the things to be championed, what they can better do than tell you is to act and to live it out, though they're very articulate and verbally expressive. But they know that people are what they do. That's a little cord and a strand that lives in them. I am what I do. So what they feel, or what they sort of mentally appropriate themselves to do, is to don different appearances and don different characteristics and wear them and sort of dance like in a seance or a ritual, trying to kind of draw the thing to them. That's why they're so keen to get out into the world. and to try new things, because if they can get out into the world and kind of play and practice, and why they like theater, they like to act in things, because if they can practice being Falstaff, if they can practice being Macbeth, if they can play being Banquo, if they can play being Julius Caesar, if they can play these characters in these roles, they can start to embody something like the picture of who they are. They get an impression of like this higher ideal and order of person, and they start to try and approximate themselves to it, because they're in this game of just trying to be the best person that they honestly can be. And they like to maximize their individuation. They like to maximize who they are as a person, and they would like that maxim, that very highest thing, to be somebody who could stand at the center of a community and champion the right thing. They have a strong sense of the right thing, and they want to stand for something. They want to stand for something because they don't want to be swayed. And they know that they will not be swayed, and they will not be moved if they become a strong, furnished, and actualized sort of person. And they're having fun while doing it, because they are everything from a saint to a trickster. And they do just like to mess with things and mess with people, because life is it can be one big fun game to them. And they like the gaminess of life. They like the excitation that comes with play, mostly because they're extroverts and they really like dopamine. But it's why they're very much childlike. But don't ever let the childlike tomfoolery of the ENFP make you think that they don't have some sort of motive, goal, or thing that they're striving towards and achieving. They feel archetypes, they feel values, they see them extant in the world, and they see just a very real cosmopoetic narrative of things. And though they may be the type that seems the most sort of able to be bizarre but maintain, along with ENFJs, bizarre but able to maintain some sort of rather harmonistic social relation, they're just as mysterious and complex as all the other NFs, and they're doing something. You know, if you knew what ENFPs were really up to, you'd probably be scared, because they're trying to do something that's really dangerous in a lot of ways in approaching archetypes and ideals, and bring those things into culture by living those things out. They're trying to revivify the dead bones or the dry bones within a society and bring the rotting flesh and husk of forgotten ways, and bring those things into the new age. They're always reaching back in the past and bringing it forward with them into the frontier. And just like novelty and chaos has its positive qualities, they do have their rather rambunctious and destructive natures. And so you just get this colorful collection of qualities in the ENFP that makes them just this joyous, dastardly, clever, tricksterous, sweet, affectionate, affirming, and loving kind of agent in the world that would just like to have a grand adventure and bring everything that they value and they love with them on that adventure, so that they can become something of an existential hero, and that's their place in the world. They stand on the vanguard and the frontier so that they can build themselves up into an individual that can withstand the tragedy of existence, and if you watch them close enough, you just might learn how to do it yourself too. And so, that's my video on ENFPs. Hopefully that was fair. This has been like the 4th time for me making it, so hopefully this one works. Anyways, have a good day.